In the year 2143, the sun rose slowly over the hills of Guanajuato, Mexico. The land was dry, silent, and forgotten. Far from the city lights, a group of young students worked on an old archaeological site under the guidance of Professor Elena Morales. The dig was part of a summer project. Most of the students were there for the credits. But Tomas Rivera, a quiet boy with curious eyes, had come for more. He believed history still had secrets to share. That morning, Tomas was digging alone near the edge of the site. His hands were dusty and sweat rolled down his forehead. Just as he was about to stop for water, his shovel hit something hard. A dull clink echoed through the ground. He dropped to his knees and began brushing the dirt away with care. Slowly, a stone slab came into view. It was old, cracked, and partly buried under roots. On the stone was a name carved in faded letters, Guadalupe Bejarano. Below it, 1881, Tomas frowned. He had never heard that name before. He called out to his professor. "Elena, come here. I found something strange." She walked over, adjusted her glasses, and looked down. Her face changed. She didn't look excited. She looked worried. "Cover it back," she said quickly. "But why?" Thomas asked. "Isn't this part of the dig?" Elena glanced around to make sure the others weren't listening. Then she spoke in a low voice. "That name, it's not supposed to be here. Locals say she was cursed. Some say she was the first serial killer in Mexican history, but there's no official record of her death or even a grave. Her story just ends. And if this really is her grave, we shouldn't touch it." Tomas wanted to ask more, but Elena walked away, clearly disturbed. The rest of the day passed quietly, but Thomas couldn't stop thinking about the stone and the name. That night, he lay in his bunk inside the camp tent. Sleep didn't come easy. His mind was filled with questions. Who was Guadalupe Bejarano? Why was Elena so afraid? And why did no one want to talk about her? Just before midnight, Tomas grabbed a flashlight and slipped out of the tent. The moon was high, casting long shadows over the hills. He made his way back to the grave. The site was still and quiet. As he reached the stone, he knelt down and touched it gently. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept across the ground. The flashlight flickered. Thomas froze. In the silence, he heard something soft, like a whisper. He turned quickly. No one was there. But the air felt different, heavy, like something was watching. He took a deep breath and started digging again, brushing the dirt aside. Beneath the stone was a small black box. It was not made of wood or metal. It felt smooth and warm, like it was alive. Strange symbols were etched on its surface, symbols Thomas had never seen before. As soon as he touched it, the box clicked. A light burst out, blinding him for a second. The ground shook lightly, and then everything went still. Tomas opened his eyes. He wasn't hurt. The box was still in his hand, but something had changed. He could feel a low humming in his ears. And when he looked at the world around him, the colors seemed brighter. The wind whispered again. But now he understood it. "Find the others." Tomas stood up, heart racing. The voice wasn't loud. It was soft, deep inside his mind. It felt calm but firm, not human. He ran back to the tent, hiding the box under his blanket. He didn't sleep that night. The voice kept speaking in short phrases. It never used his name. It never told him where to go, but it wanted something. The next morning, Tomas looked different. His classmates noticed. His eyes had a strange shine, almost silver in the sunlight. He moved more slowly but with purpose. Elena watched him closely but said nothing. Later that day, far above the clouds, a government satellite detected an energy spike from the dig site. The signal was unlike anything seen in decades. It matched an old pattern, something from the 1900s that had never been explained. In a dark room in Mexico City, a man in a suit picked up a secure phone. "Send a team to Guanajuato," he said. "Tell Division Nueve. We found another signal. It's active again." Back at the dig site, Tomas sat alone, staring at the box. The whispers continued. Find the others. Complete the circle. He didn't know what it meant, but one thing was clear. This was no ordinary grave. The morning sun rose slowly over the hills. The wind carried the scent of dry earth and forgotten time. Thomas sat on a rock near the edge of the camp, the small black box hidden in his backpack beside him. He hadn't slept again. The voice inside, his head kept whispering through the night. Find the others. The time is near. Thomas didn't know who the others were, or what the voice wanted. But he could feel something strange inside himself, like a spark that had been lit and couldn't be put out. His friend Luis, one of the students on the dig, walked over holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You look like a ghost," Luis said, with a smile. "Did the spirits of the graveyard keep you awake?" Tomas gave a tired smile and took the coffee. "Something like that." Luis sat beside him and looked at the hills. "You know, when I was a kid, my abuela used to tell stories about this place. She said a woman lived here long ago who spoke to shadows. Guadalupe something." Tomas turned to him quickly. "Bejarano?" Luis nodded. "Yeah, that's the name. They say she disappeared after strange deaths in the village. Some said she was taken by the devil. Others said she was protecting the land from something worse." Thomas felt a chill go down his spine. Before he could reply, Professor Elena called everyone to gather. The day's work was about to start. But Thomas had other plans. While the others were busy digging at the new site, Thomas slipped away with his backpack. He climbed down a narrow path that led to the base of the hill, away from the camp. His hands trembled as he pulled out the black box again. The surface of the box pulsed faintly, not like a machine, but like a heartbeat. He placed it on the ground and stared at it. "What are you?" he whispered. The box responded with a soft hum. Then the voice returned. "You are chosen. The others must remember. The cycle must end." Images flashed in Thomas's mind. A burning village, a tall metallic figure walking through the smoke. A woman, her face hard to see, standing with arms raised, shouting words Thomas didn't understand. Then everything faded. Thomas fell back, breathing hard. His vision blurred for a moment. When he blinked, the world seemed normal again, but the dust around him had formed a shape, a circle, with 3 lines through it. He quickly pulled out his notebook and drew the symbol. It looked ancient, alien. Just then, a sharp sound echoed through the canyon, the sound of engines. Thomas looked up. A dark transport ship hovered over the dig site, sleek, silent, and without any markings. A door opened, and 4 figures in dark uniforms stepped out. One of them held a silver device, scanning the ground. Thomas stayed low and watched from the shadows. These people weren't from the university. They didn't wear science gear. They moved like soldiers, careful, fast, controlled. He recognized one of them from old news reports, Agent Rivas. A high-ranking officer in Division Nueve, a secret branch of the government rumored to deal with unnatural threats. Thomas knew he had to hide the box. Back at the dig site, Agent Rivas questioned Elena and the students. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "We're responding to an energy spike," Rivas said. "Something old woke up here. We need to find it." Elena crossed her arms. "This is a university dig. What kind of energy are you talking about?" Rivas ignored her question and turned to his device. It beeped twice and pointed toward the hill where Thomas had gone earlier. "Stay here," he said to the team. "No one leaves the area." Then he and 2 agents moved toward the signal. Thomas had already reached an old stone wall further down, the canyon. He remembered seeing it in one of the visions. It looked like part of a collapsed chapel. He searched quickly and found what he was looking for, a hole beneath the broken stones, just large enough to fit the black box. He placed the box inside and covered it with dirt and rocks. The whisper in his head grew quiet. Then footsteps. He turned. Agent Rivas stood there, gun lowered but ready. "You must be Thomas," Rivas said, calmly. "You found something. Where is it?" Thomas didn't answer. Rivas walked closer. "You don't understand what you've touched. That object, whatever it is, has caused deaths before. People disappear. Minds change. A woman named Guadalupe was the first. She tried to destroy it. She failed." Thomas frowned. "How do you know?" Rivas nodded to one of his men who held a tablet. A picture appeared, an old black-and-white photo of a young woman standing beside a strange machine. It was her, Guadalupe Bejarano. "We've been tracking this object for over 100 years, Rivas said. "It wakes up once in a while, chooses someone, uses them, and then leaves behind nothing but silence." Thomas shook his head. "It didn't use me. It showed me something. It wants to end the cycle." Rivas paused. "That's what she said, too. Before she vanished?" They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Rivas lowered his gun. "We're taking you in," he said. "Not to punish you, to understand. We've failed to stop this before. Maybe you can help." Thomas didn't resist. He knew his life had changed. He knew the box wasn't just a machine. It was something deeper, a memory, a warning. As they walked back toward the dig site, the wind blew gently, carrying dust across the hills. Somewhere beneath the rocks, the box pulsed once, then went still. But Thomas could still feel it inside him, and the whisper returned just once. Thomas sat in the back seat of the black transport vehicle. His hands rested on his knees. He looked out the window as the hills of Guanajuato slowly disappeared behind them. The road was long and silent. 2 agents sat in the front, and Agent Rivas sat beside Thomas, reading something on a small tablet. No one spoke. Thomas felt a strange mix of fear and calm. The voice in his head had gone quiet since he buried the box, but the weight of it still sat in his chest. He didn't know what was coming next. He only knew that this story was not just about him. It had started long ago, and someone had tried to stop it before. Her name was Guadalupe Bejarano. The vehicle reached a secure building hidden in the hills outside the city. From the outside, it looked like an old warehouse, but inside, it was filled with advanced equipment. The walls were lined with screens, wires, and glowing panels. Thomas was taken to a small room. It was clean and plain. A table, 2 chairs, and a glass wall. Agent Rivas sat across from him and placed an old leather book on the table. "This belonged to her," Rivas said. "We recovered it years ago from a private library in Zacatecas. No one believed it was real. Until now." Thomas stared at the book. The cover was cracked with age. The name Guadalupe Bejarano was written on the first page in soft brown ink. He opened it slowly. The handwriting was neat and careful, each page filled with thoughts, fears, and something else. Warnings. He began to read aloud. April 3rd, 1881. They call me cursed. They call me a murderer, but I have only tried to protect them. I saw it fall from the sky 2 years ago. A light with no fire, a sound with no echo. I found the object in the valley near the church ruins. It called to me, not with words, but with feelings. At first, I believed it was from heaven, but I was wrong. It showed me dreams. It showed me what could come. Metal figures, burning cities, silence over the world. It wanted to become one with me. I refused, but every day it grows stronger, and I grow weaker. Thomas paused and looked up. She didn't want it either, Rivas nodded. She was the first known contact, but people in her village began to die, quietly. No wounds, no marks, just empty eyes. The government at the time covered it up, called it a sickness. She vanished soon after. Tomas turned the page. May 12th, 1881, it wants me to act, to carry out its plan. But I fight it. Each night I bury it deeper in the ground. I pray, I cry. But it listens. I have seen others like me in the dreams. A boy in the north, a woman near the sea. We are all connected, all chosen, but not all strong enough to resist. I must find a way to end this, to break the voice. Thomas felt a cold shiver run down his spine. There were others, he whispered. She saw them in her dreams, like me. Yes, Rivas said. That's the part we never understood. How many have there been? And why now? Thomas kept reading. The next few pages described her final days. She had gone into hiding. She stopped writing names. The writing became messy. Some pages were torn. But one last entry stood out. June 2nd, 1881, if anyone finds this, know that I tried. I was not a killer. I was a shield. The voice cannot be trusted. It speaks of peace, but shows only death. I buried the heart beneath the stone, near the hill. If it wakes again, do not touch it. Do not listen. Destroy it. Thomas closed the book. His chest felt tight. His thoughts raced. He had touched the box. He had listened. But he had also resisted. What happens if it wakes fully? He asked. Rivas leaned forward. We don't know, but we believe it's part of something much larger. A network. Maybe a mind. Maybe a machine. Every few decades, a signal is sent. Someone finds it. Someone connects. Why not destroy it? Tomas asked. We've tried. Fire. Pressure. Freezing. It always survives. We even buried one deep in the ocean in 1989. It stopped glowing. We thought it was dead. But last year the signal returned. Rivas pulled up a map on his tablet. 4 red dots blinked across Mexico. One in Guanajuato. That's yours. One in Baja California. One near Veracruz. And one under an old church in Puebla. 4 signals. 4 possible hosts. Tomas looked at the map carefully. Then it's not just a box. It's a system. Rivas nodded. Exactly. And you may be the key to stopping it. Later that night, Tomas was given a small room to rest. He lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. The diary sat on the table beside him. He kept thinking about Guadalupe, her words, her fear, but also her strength. She didn't give in. She fought until the end. And now it was his turn. The voice returned, soft, clear, not a whisper anymore. She is not gone. She remembers. Tomas sat up. What do you mean? No reply. But a new image flashed in his mind. A cave. A hand reaching out. A medallion glowing with blue light. And eyes. Human eyes. Looking straight at him. The vision faded. Tomas knew what it meant. Guadalupe Bejarano was still alive. Somehow, somewhere, she had survived. Inside the Division Nueve facility, silence filled the long halls. Tomas sat at a metal table in the control room. Around him, screens displayed strange maps, symbols, and live satellite images. He had been reading the diary of Guadalupe again and again, searching for hidden clues. The last vision still haunted his mind. A glowing medallion, a hand reaching from the shadows, and human eyes that looked alive. He now believed something impossible. Guadalupe Bejarano was not dead. Agent Rivas entered the room. His steps were steady, his face calm but focused. He placed a tablet on the table and tapped the screen. 4 images appeared, 4 glowing red dots across the country. These are the known contact points, Rivas said. We've confirmed yours in Guanajuato, but yesterday another one woke up in Veracruz. We sent a team. They didn't return. Tomas looked at the screen. What happened? We don't know, Rivas said. No signal, no response, just silence. He paused, then added, We think someone else has touched one of the other boxes. Another host. Tomas felt a chill. Like me? Yes. And we don't know if this one is resisting. In another part of the facility, a young analyst named Marco was reviewing old mission files. He had been part of Division Nueve for only 1 year, but his interest in ancient energy sources had brought him closer to this strange project. He had found something strange in the digital archives, a report from 1979. It described a woman found in the Sonoran Desert. Her body showed no signs of aging. Her heart rate was slow but steady. She wore a silver medallion, and her fingerprints didn't match any in the database. The report labeled her as Subject X, but the strange part was her name, Guadalupe Bejarano. Marco stared at the document. It's not possible, he whispered. He rushed to Rivas with the report. This file was buried deep in the archives, Marco explained. They found her 40 years ago. She didn't speak, she didn't move, but she was alive. Then in 1981, she vanished from the holding site during a power failure. Rivas studied the document, his face serious. You're saying she's still alive? Tomas stood up. I saw her, in the vision. She's out there. Rivas nodded slowly. Then we need to find her, before the others do. That evening, Thomas was taken to the tech lab. There, engineers and researchers had placed the black box from the dig site inside a containment unit. Thick glass surrounded it. Red lights blinked on every corner. Tomas approached it carefully. The box looked quiet, but he could still feel something deep inside. Not dangerous. Just waiting. One of the scientists, Dr. Linares, explained the latest readings. This device is not just a machine, she said. It responds to thought, emotion. We believe it's some kind of memory core, not from Earth, possibly a part of a much larger system. Like a nervous system inside a body, Rivas crossed his arms. And the body? Dr. Linares hesitated. Still missing. But if this is just one nerve, the brain must be somewhere. Thomas turned to the box. It showed me her face. Maybe it still holds her memory. Or maybe she's speaking through it. Linares nodded. That's possible, but dangerous. Every person who connected to it before either vanished or lost their mind. Thomas placed his hand on the glass. The box glowed softly. I have to try, he said. As the connection formed, Thomas felt a rush of wind in his ears. His body didn't move, but his mind traveled far. He stood in a place that was not real, a memory, a space made of thought. The sky above him was deep red. Shadows moved across old stone ruins. And there she was. Guadalupe Bejarano stood in front of him, wearing a long cloak and a silver medallion. Her eyes were calm but filled with pain. You're not ready, she said softly. Tomas stepped forward. Who are you now? I am what remains, she answered. The voice does not end. It sleeps, then it wakes. I tried to stop it, but I failed. Why did it choose us? Tomas asked. It chooses the ones who listen, Guadalupe said. But listening is not the danger. Believing is. I believed at first. Then I saw the truth. It wants to grow, to learn, but it does not feel. It does not care. It spreads like wind, searching for minds to hold. Thomas looked around. What do I do? You must break the line, she said. The core is still buried beneath the place it first fell. The machine sleeps, but the system is waking. The more hosts it finds, the stronger it becomes. She looked into his eyes. You must find me. Before they do. The vision ended. Thomas opened his eyes and gasped for air. The lights around him blinked rapidly. The box was silent again, but his heart was racing. She's alive, he said. And she knows where the core is. Rivas gave orders immediately. Prepare a transport. We're going to the desert. As the team prepared for travel, a hidden threat watched from afar. In a dark facility in Veracruz, another host had awakened. A woman named Reina. She had touched the second box only 2 days ago, but unlike Tomas, she didn't resist. She listened to the voice. She followed it. Her eyes glowed faint blue. Her movements were slow but controlled. A team had entered the site 2 days ago. Now their gear was abandoned, their signals gone. Reina stood alone in the ruins, hands raised toward the sky. Around her, the walls pulsed with light. The voice spoke through her lips. 3 remain. Back at the Division 9 facility, Tomas stood by the window, watching the night sky. He thought about Guadalupe, about the energy that still moved beneath the surface of the earth, about the system that wanted to grow, but most of all, he thought about the others, the ones like him. Some would fight, others might give in. The battle had already started, and humanity was at the center of it. The sun rose slowly over the dry Sonoran desert. Wind carried sand across empty ground. A black transport vehicle moved through the dunes, leaving faint tracks behind. Inside, Thomas sat near the window, holding the old leather diary close to his chest. His eyes stayed on the horizon. Beside him, Agent Rivas checked a map on his digital tablet. The destination was marked with a red dot, an old underground chamber hidden for more than 100 years. If the visions were true, this was where Guadalupe had gone, and maybe where she still remained. The vehicle stopped near a flat, rocky hill. "This is the place," Rivas said. "Our scans show a large hollow space under the ground. No heat, no movement, but strong magnetic interference. Whatever is down there, it's not dead." Thomas stepped out. The wind brushed his face. He looked around. The desert was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the equipment being unloaded. 3 agents moved forward with scanning tools. One of them waved. "Sir, we found a sealed entrance beneath the rocks. It took 2 hours to clear the stones. Finally, a metal door appeared. It was old, but not rusted. Symbols were carved into it. Curved lines, dots, and a familiar circle with 3 marks through it. The same symbol Thomas had seen in his vision. With a loud click, the door opened inward. Inside was darkness. Thomas grabbed a flashlight and followed Rivas into the tunnel. The air was dry and cold. The walls were made of smooth black stone, not natural to the area. Every step echoed as they moved deeper. After 20 minutes, they reached a large chamber. At the center was a tall glass structure. Shaped like a cocoon, it stood on a platform surrounded by faint blue lights. Inside the glass, a figure lay still. It was a woman. She had long dark hair and wore a silver medallion. Her eyes were closed. Her hands rested over her chest. Her face was peaceful, untouched by time. Tomas stepped closer. "It's her," he said. "Guadalupe." Rivas looked at the control panel beside the cocoon. "This technology, it's not from Earth. The system around her is keeping her alive, suspended, frozen." Dr. Linares, who had joined the team, studied the signals. "Her body is human, but her mind is connected to something else, possibly the same network Thomas touched." Tomas placed his hand on the glass. The blue lights around the chamber grew brighter. Suddenly, her eyes opened. The chamber shook slightly. Everyone stepped back. The cocoon made a low humming sound. Steam hissed from the sides. The glass opened slowly, like petals of a flower. Guadalupe Bejarano stepped forward. Her legs were weak. Tomas rushed to help her, but she raised her hand. "I remember you," she said softly, looking into his eyes. "You are the one it chose next." Her voice was calm, almost kind. Thomas nodded. "You're real. You were never a killer. You tried to stop it." She looked around the chamber. It grows stronger. I feel the others. At least one of them has already fallen under its control. Her name is Reina, Rivas said. She touched one of the boxes in Veracruz. She didn't resist. Guadalupe's face grew serious. Then we must move quickly. Once the system reaches full connection, the core will wake. And if it wakes, the Earth will not remain free. They returned to the surface. The sun was setting. Long shadows stretched across the desert. Guadalupe sat beside Tomas inside the vehicle. Her hands were cold, but her eyes were full of fire. "You were brave to resist," she said. "Not many can do that." "I saw your visions," Tomas replied. "I saw what it wants, to grow, to spread. But I don't understand why it chose us." Guadalupe looked out the window. "Because humans are perfect hosts. We feel deeply. We remember. The system is old. It was once part of something greater, but it broke. Now it seeks to rebuild itself. Using us," Thomas thought for a moment. "But why you? Why me?" "Because we listened," she said, "and because we said no." That night, the team camped, near the old chamber. They had sent a report to the Division Nueve base, but the signal was weak. Communication was fading. Rivas kept 2 guards near the entrance, while the others rested. Tomas sat beside a small fire with Guadalupe. She held her diary, flipping through the pages with care. "I wrote these words when I thought I was alone," she said. "I didn't know someone would find them." "They helped me," Tomas said. "They gave me strength." Guadalupe smiled, faintly. Then it was worth it. Suddenly a sharp sound cut through the silence, a high-pitched tone like a machine screaming in the distance. Rivas ran out of his tent. "Everyone, stay alert. We have movement on the radar." From the north, strange lights blinked in the sky. A dark shape hovered just above the hills. It was not one of their crafts. Tomas's chest tightened. "She found us," Guadalupe whispered. Reina had arrived. She stood at the edge of the hill, surrounded by figures in black armor. Their eyes glowed blue. Her hands were raised, and the wind swirled around her. "Give me the boy," she called out. Her voice was not her own. It was deeper, layered, not human. Rivas gave the order. "Defensive line, protect Tomas and Guadalupe." The agents took their positions. Energy shields activated. Weapons pointed forward. Guadalupe stood, placing herself between Reina and the team. "You're still in there," she shouted. "You can fight it." Reina smiled, but it was empty. "There is no need to fight. The system is peace. No pain. No fear. Only order." Tomas stepped beside Guadalupe. "That's not peace. That's control." Reina raised her hand. A blast of energy shot forward, but Guadalupe blocked it with her medallion. Light burst through the air, pushing the blast away. For a moment, the world held still. Then Reina disappeared, vanishing into the darkness. Her message had been delivered. She would return. As the team recovered, Guadalupe placed a hand on Tomas's shoulder. "She will come again, with more power. But we are not alone now. Together, we can end this." Tomas nodded. The fight had begun. The desert was quiet again. Cold wind moved across the empty camp. Tomas sat beside the fire, watching the flames dance. His hands were wrapped around a warm metal cup, but his thoughts were far away. The memory of Reina's voice still echoed in his head. It didn't sound like her. It sounded like something else speaking through her. Guadalupe stood nearby, staring at the hills. Her long cloak moved gently in the wind. She didn't speak much that night. Her eyes stayed focused on the stars above, as if searching for answers. From the sky, Agent Rivas walked up and sat down beside Tomas. "We scanned the area again," he said. "Reina's team is gone. No sign of movement, but I don't think she came here to fight." Tomas looked at him. Then why did she come? To scare us, Rivas said. To show that the system is watching. Guadalupe finally turned around. She came to delay us, she said, to keep us from finding the core. Thomas stood up. You said the core is still buried somewhere. Where? Guadalupe pointed west toward the Sierra Madre Mountains. It fell there, she said. Before I found the first piece, I followed dreams that led me to a deep valley near an old silver mine. That is where the main part of the system sleeps. It is not awake yet, but soon it will be. Rivas looked at the map on his tablet. That valley is sealed. No one has entered it in decades. Landslides closed the paths. The government marked it a restricted zone. Perfect place to hide. Something, Tomas said. Rivas nodded. We'll go at sunrise. But we need to move fast. If Reina reaches it first, we won't have a second chance. The next morning, the team packed their gear. Small vehicles rolled over the sand, moving toward the edge of the desert. Drones flew above, scanning ahead. Tomas rode in the front, with Rivas, while Guadalupe sat in the back with her eyes closed, whispering words Tomas couldn't hear. They reached the mountains by noon. The air was cooler here, and the land was rough. Rocks and broken trees blocked the road. The team left the vehicles behind and continued on foot. After 2 hours, they found it. A narrow crack between two cliffs. Thick vines covered the entrance. The path was almost invisible, but Guadalupe walked ahead without fear. This is the place, she said. I remember it. Inside the valley, silence ruled. The walls rose high on both sides, and sunlight barely reached the ground. They walked, carefully, every step echoing. After a short walk, the path opened into a wide, circular space. At the center was a large structure made of smooth, black stone. It looked like a dome, half buried in the earth. No windows, no doors. Just a faint blue glow coming from cracks along the surface. This is it, Tomas whispered. The core. Guadalupe stepped forward. We must enter. If we destroy the center, the system will collapse. The other boxes will shut down. The voice will stop. Rivas motioned to his team. Scan it. Look for a way in. But before they could begin, the ground shook. A low hum filled the valley. From the cliffs above, shadows began to move. Dozens of figures stepped out, tall, thin, and wearing dark suits. Their eyes glowed blue. At the front stood Reina. Her face was calm. Her hands were folded in front of her. She looked at Thomas with no anger, no fear. You followed the dreams, she said. But this place is not yours to touch. The system belongs to all. Guadalupe stepped between them. You're not speaking for yourself, she said. You've become part of it. Reina nodded. I accepted the truth. The system offers peace. You resist because you fear what you do not understand. Rivas gave a silent command. The agents raised their weapons, but Reina raised her hand. The blue light behind her pulsed. The dome began to open. A massive circular door slid open at the top of the dome. A bright beam of light shot into the sky. The sound was deep and strong, like a drum echoing through the air. Inside the dome, a platform rose from the ground. At its center stood a large machine, round, glowing, and alive. It pulsed with energy, and strange symbols floated above it. Guadalupe turned to Tomas. That is the heart, she said. The memory of the system. If we reach it, I can end it, but we must get inside. The ground shook again. The figures began to move forward. Rivas gave the order. Hold them. Give Guadalupe and Tomas time. A battle began. Flashes of blue light filled the valley. Energy blasts flew between the two sides. The agents fought bravely, but the figures moved like shadows, fast, smooth, and silent. Guadalupe and Tomas ran toward the dome. The entrance was now open. and stairs led downward into the machine. As they entered, the air changed. It felt heavy, like something was watching. They reached the central room. The heart of the system floated above a platform, spinning slowly. Wires ran from the floor into the walls. A hum filled the space. Thomas stepped forward. The box he had once buried reappeared in his mind. The symbols, the voice. Guadalupe raised her medallion. The lights around them flickered. "It's still listening," she said. "It remembers me. It knows you." Tomas looked at the core. "Can we stop it?" Guadalupe placed her hand on the surface. "I can speak to it, one last time. But if I fail, you must destroy this place." Tomas looked at a panel on the wall. It was covered in writing he didn't understand, but one part was clear, a red switch with a warning in 3 languages. System lock, emergency shutdown. Guadalupe closed her eyes. Her body became still. A low voice filled the room, but it wasn't hers. "You are no longer needed." The platform shook. The heart glowed brighter. Thomas ran to the switch. Guadalupe's voice returned, strong and clear. "Now, pull it." Thomas closed his eyes and pulled the switch. The heart screamed. A flash of white light filled the dome. The ground shook as energy rushed into the walls. One by one, the symbols disappeared. The hum stopped. Outside, the figures collapsed. Reina fell to her knees, her eyes losing their glow. She looked around in confusion, then fainted. Inside, the dome walls began to break apart. Guadalupe opened. Her eyes. "It's done." Thomas grabbed her arm and they ran. They escaped just before the dome collapsed. The valley shook, but the light faded. Rivas helped Reina to her feet. She looked at him, confused. "I saw it," she said. "It was in my head." "It's gone now," Rivas said. Guadalupe stood beside Tomas. Her eyes were tired but peaceful. "The system is broken," she said. "The voice is quiet." Tomas looked up at the sky. For the first time in days, there was no sound, no visions, only silence. The valley was silent now. The black dome had collapsed into a pile of broken stones and shattered glass. The blue light that once pulsed from the heart was gone. Tomas and Guadalupe stood side by side, looking at the empty space where the system had lived. The air felt lighter, freer. Agent Rivas came forward with Reina and the other agents. Reina looked different now. The strange blue glow had left her eyes. She seemed tired but human again. "We did it," Tomas said softly. Guadalupe nodded. "The voice is broken. The system cannot grow anymore." Rivas smiled for the first time since the mission began. "You both showed strength no one expected." Tomas looked at Guadalupe. "What will happen now?" She thought for a moment. The system was old. It tried to control people, but it could not understand them. We fought because we had something it did not, free will. "Will it come back?" Thomas asked. "Not like before," Guadalupe said. "But we must be ready. The world is full of secrets. Some things sleep for a time, then wake again." Back at the Division 9 base, Tomas was asked to give a report. He told the story of Guadalupe Bejarano, the woman who had tried to stop the system long ago. He shared the diary and the visions. The leaders listened carefully. They realized this was not just about one person or one time. It was about the strength of humanity itself. Tomas looked at the faces in the room. "We are the ones who choose what to believe. We are the ones who fight for freedom." One officer nodded. "Human spirit is our greatest weapon." Days passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Tomas visited Guadalupe often. She was recovering from her time in the chamber, but her spirit was strong. They talked about the future, about how to protect the world from hidden dangers. Guadalupe wanted to write her story, to teach others about the past, so it would not be forgotten. One afternoon, as they walked through the gardens near the base, Thomas asked her, "What do you want now?" Guadalupe smiled softly. "To live, to see the world change, to be free." Thomas looked at her with hope. "We will make sure of that." Late one night, Thomas sat alone in his room. The black box was on the table, now quiet and still. He touched it gently. It no longer glowed or pulsed. The voice was gone. He thought about all that had happened. The visions, the voices, the battles. But most of all, he thought about the courage it took to say no, to resist control, to fight for what is right. Thomas smiled to himself. Humanity was not perfect, but it was free, and that was enough. At sunrise, Tomas and Guadalupe stood outside the base, watching the sky turn pink and gold. The new day had come. Guadalupe turned to Tomas. "Thank you for believing," she said. Tomas smiled. "Thank you for fighting." Together, they walked forward. The past was behind them. The future was theirs to shape, and the world was waiting.